Hello everyone, it is the 2023 gear review wrap-up. These are all the things that made me feel a certain thing during 2023. So it's a best, it's a worst, it's in all sorts of the last year. I'm just going to try and do bad, good, bad, good, bad, good in that sort of order. But because I'm an optimist, there's probably going to be more good things to share with you about things I related to, things I experienced in the gear world in this channel in the calendar year of 2023. Now, you've probably noticed this channel is like a bit different. It's a bit more curated. This isn't Metal Complex, this isn't Neves, this isn't Stassa. I don't have all the newest stuff coming across my desk, making quick videos, several videos a week. It's too expensive to do that in Australia. The shipping would kill me. So it's already a bit curated as to what I'm going to get, so I don't experience all the newest stuff. Some of the stuff that I'm talking about isn't stuff that's specifically from 2023, but it's more of a retrospective for me personally. So we'll be talking about a few different types of things, but mainly gear focused. So I'll try and stay on topic. But first, a bit of an in memoriam. We had a loss on the channel. Finally, after nailing several dozen absolute garbage multi-tools and pretend good kitchen knives, the classic Cedric metal trash can throwing bin of justice finally had to be put out to pasture. It is now with the Metal Lord after being dropped off at the steel tip. Yeah, we're here. We're gonna go out for a play, okay? All right, come on, boy, let's go. Come on, let's go, buddy. Yeah, let's go. Let's go and play over here. Yeah, good boy. When somebody loves you, everything is beautiful. Every hour is spent together, lives within my heart. And when he was sad, I was there to comfort him. And when he was happy, so was I, when he loved me. So part of the New Year resolution will be to get a brand new throwing bin. I might have to do some more research, some more testing of which is making ideas about which is going to make the most satisfying clang and crunch, and which is the most wieldable of throwing bins to throw at the stuff that needs a bin thrown at it. It's a pretty big part of the gear world. I'm afraid you can't be a gear review channel, at least not a credible one, without throwing a bin at the things you don't like. That's at least my opinion anyway. Anyway, so with the sad stuff out the way, let's talk about the first. We'll start with a miss. We'll start with a bad. Now, when I think 2023 on my channel, Husk Knives really sticks out to me as, well, a company that stuck it to me a couple of times, and I stuck it to them a couple of times as well. I've reviewed Husk knives several times. These are like the internet knives, the Instagram knives, the careless purchase knives. They'll get into your spam. They'll get into your junk mail. They'll get into your Instagram algorithm, and before you know it, you click through the Husk website and you've got a pack of 4 of these things on the way, and they're apparently Japanese blacksmith heritage, all that sort of stuff. And of course, they're not. These are about as mass-produced as, anything. They're probably made in a huge industrial district in China, but you fit lots of 50,000 at a time. But the interesting thing was my relationship with the Husk knife this year. So I've had a few videos on them, and every so often, just seemingly out of nowhere, Husk will notice the videos again and take some sort of action to reduce their impact, flagging them for something, getting them blacklisted or complaints and whatnot. So my philosophy has always been, every time they do that, I'll just come back with a couple more. I try and be a bit like a Hydra. You cut the heads off and 3 more sprout back, That being said, this interesting Husk knife here is unlike many of the other Husk knives. This was the Husk knife for a little while. Before it was the other Husk knife, and then after was the other Husk knife. But this one here, at a certain window in time when I ordered my Husk knives for further review and comedy purposes, I got this one. And this one was actually a half, dare I say, normal Husk knife. And this one was so surprising because it's actually made out of a blade steel, which is crazy to me, Husk having a knife made out of a proper blade steel, not just a pot metal. This is made of 420 J2 blade steel, probably one of the most basic blade steels, but a blade steel nonetheless. And as such,
being it's about half the thickness of a usual Husk knife and has a slightly better hollow ground and all sorts going for it. It actually did an okay performance as a cutting tool, which was pretty amazing. So this was a real odd story this year. The time I accidentally got a half decent knife amongst a sea of turds from Husk. So very 2023, if you ask me. Moving on to about the opposite of a Husk knife is a great fixed blade knife. This is the TRC Polheim. Still working on the review. Sorry guys, it is coming. The TRC Polheim is a fairly high-end companion style knife made of Magna Cut steel. Very, very well ground. You'll see an earlier steel test of this straight from the factory. You're looking at least 800 cuts through twisted sisal rope. I believe it was even a bit more than that. It's wearing in really, really well. I've put a lot of miles on it. I'm using it pretty well because this is a pretty expensive knife. Things from TRC, you're paying for materials, you're paying for craftsmanship, you are paying for like a very well done knife, but it's expensive, and for reasons I'll talk about as the video goes on, the expensive stuff is really getting a considered review from this time on, but this has been one of the better fixed blade knives I've had, and it is one of the, if not the best new fixed blade that I've had in 2023. So the TRC Polheim Magna Cut, it's a saber ground, but nice and thin and high saber grind. G10 handles, pretty basic stuff. A little Kydex sheath there with a ulti clip for sort of in-pocket retention. Very nifty little fixed blade. More of that to come. Now we'll go another bad one. We'll go a bit of a wow for the Gerber Principle. Gerber Principle, really classic Gerber, great art department, but then in practice, not so good. The Gerber Principle is a good looking little knife. I love the design of it. Sort of a bushcraft variant of the other Gerber similar design that came out that's a little bit longer. This is the Scandi Ground Bushcrafter in 420 HC rather than the other being more of a saber ground camp knife in S30V. The Terracraft, that's what it is. So this one here, this specific knife here wasn't heat treated very well, and it sort of, the blade failed during pretty basic sort of wood shaving, firewood preparing tasks, which was about the task that this knife is supposed to be for doing. So the steel in this just didn't hold up. The sheath was a bit sort of, whilst I like the idea of like a modular variable sheath, it's just a bit clackety and sort of cheap feeling. So a bit of a bummer here. The Gerber, what's it called? Principle. It's yeah, a bit of a sad story. I was hoping it would be better than it was. I love how it looks. I like how it is in hand, but the steel is just too soft, and it's just not feasible for me anyway. They might not all be like this, of course. Most of us reviewers just get the one knife. But that's just my story with the Principle, and it was a bit of a sad one. Moving on to one of the later entries in the year is the Leatherman Arc. Now, my most used Leatherman of the year was actually the Leatherman Signal, but that's hardly a new Leatherman. The Leatherman Arc came towards the end of the year. Thank you to Seth for helping me have it here. It's still kind of hard to get in Australia. Leatherman Arc is a great multi-tool from Leatherman. It's got the Magna Cut blade, and it's got sort of the free platform, so magnet-based, much slicker, sort of very nice, very, very premium Leatherman at a very, very premium price too. I've done a couple of videos on this now because, as I was saying, I want to get my things straight. I want to get my shit straight when I'm telling you really expensive stuff is good, because in general, this is still the best Leatherman here, the Wave. Nothing much is going to beat the Wave. Unless you really have a specific need for a great blade steel on your blade. If you are someone in a country like mine where often the most palatable way to carry a knife is on a multi-tool, then the Leatherman Arc probably is the best multi-tool for you. But if you're after just a good multi-tool, then the Wave is about half the price, and it is definitely not half as good, or this is definitely not twice as good as a Wave. So, but as a new cool bit of kit, really great to see a new design from Leatherman. This really does kind of optimize the tool set in my opinion as well. I love the hammer base. That's why I like the Signal so much. I like the hammer. I always find myself needing to sort of readjust something or sort of hammer something in a little bit deeper that's slipped out in a storm, if it's a stake holding a tree straight or something like that. Yeah, it's got a great tool set, and the Magna Cut knife is pretty nice to have. Yeah, it's a little bit thicker. I was talking to my friend yesterday actually. Perhaps I didn't mention enough that it is on the thicker side. I have a sharp enough edge on it that for a multi-tool blade it is fine, but it is a bit of a beefier knife than the Leatherman, and he was right in saying that to me in the little chats that we have. But yeah, so you are right, Chris, it is a bit of a thicker knife. But I think overall this package is one of Leatherman's best. Definitely top 5 Leathermans. Bad this year, and I guess on the tail end of talking about Polheims and Leatherman Arcs, is the cost of living. This is the year that truly felt to me like excess knives are truly a luxury item. Like if you're kidding yourself, if you're buying more than your 4th pocket knife or fixed blade knife, and you're thinking it's for like a real purchase, a real purpose, you're not just having fun. And so as such, just the way the world has gone, the way that things are, grocery prices, everything this year, interest rates in Australia. My mortgage is about $400 for minimum payments, more a fortnight than it was about a year ago. Like the interest rates are going up. We're okay. We're both 40-hour-a-week workers. We just feel really busy to like pay for our kids' music lessons and just to still maintain a full quality life. But I got no doubt that other people who are doing a lot harder probably are looking at a lot of this sort of stuff and going, fucking get real. Like this is $500. What a ridiculous. If I had $500, the last thing I'd be spending on is a wanky new multi-tool with a fancy blade steel. I'd be getting like a Leatherman rebar for everything, and I'd be paying like rent or paying like car payments. It's the year that I've really started to think of that a lot, like, and to really think of my hobby, this knife hobby, as, and this doesn't cheapen or doesn't diminish the hobby at all, but it really is an optional thing. Like there is practical sense behind this, but I'm sort of starting to feel a bit silly having so many knives and having like a lot of them just not being used. So it's just an interesting little turning point for me. So definitely thumbs down this year as the increased cost of living. So bit of a bummer, but you really start to, I feel like I start to have to acknowledge it a bit when I'm talking about these quite expensive things, because knife prices, as I'll talk about later, are definitely prone to being affected by this as well. But another good news story for now, another favorite fixed blade of the year is the Kly Folklore. I've had this one for a while. This is my winter knife, my firewood prep knife. I do, when I can, I do the bushcraft with my firewood, with my wood, my fire starting at home. I like to use a knife to make my feather sticks, to split my wood down into, just because it's part of the experience that I enjoy, and I do like using knives, and this is a great bushcraft knife. Magna cut on a sort of handmade bushcraft knife. Very simple design, but it works great. Very, very tough knife, very robust, very rugged. I always think that a bushcraft knife is a great thing to get in touch with a small maker and get something a bit more bespoke, because, when you're thinking bespoke folding knives, you're going to pay at least $1,000 for like someone to hand make you a folding knife, if not more. I mean, some of the companies doing 100% CNC are charging $1,000 now. So yeah, if you want to dip your feet into like supporting small makers, a bushcraft knife is a great place to start. Whether it's Gary Creeley, whether it's someone else, there's a lot of great makers out there. And this Magna cut on a handmade knife for about, I think probably $400 or so, you have to double check, is a really good deal to me, at least, because this is definitely an heirloom tool for me, for sure. So the Kly Folklore Bushcraft knife, one of the best knife experiences of 2023 to me. Moving to another thumbs down, another sad, bad grrr, is Mora this year. The Mora Ash series did not strike a chord with me. The Mora Ash series is basically knives made in the same steel as most of the Mora lineup, with these nice looking wooden handles and black coatings, sold for about 8 times as much as a Mora Companion or Mora Classic. I say the Mora Classic because that is also a knife made of wood and 13C, 27 or 12C, the Sandvik steel they use. Mora in general, they've started rebranding themselves a little bit, all as like a sustainable company, and I am all for legitimate industrial efforts to look after the planet, for sure. I would still say that this is going to be bought by people who probably already have lots of knives, so any extra excessive knife purchase is probably a wasteful purchase. But that aside, that really big fact aside, I think you're paying a lot on the ticket price for a knife that they're really aiming to be in like the latest issue of Bushwalker magazine. Perhaps to get a knife into someone's hand that doesn't even have a knife when they go bushwalking. A lot of bushwalkers that I know of, lots of hikers, don't even carry, they might carry a Swiss Army knife and not even think about it. So there probably is a normie knife section that this might be aiming for, but it is so expensive, and they would be better off just trying to squirrel in those lower cost Moras to those people, because This to me did not perform 5 times better than a Mora companion. It's about twice the price of a Mora Garbig, which is a more rugged knife that does perform better. You really are just paying for an idea here, and frankly, I don't like they've rebranded most of their steel as the stainless, at least as recycled Swedish without sort of specifying what it is. That's just me as a steel nerd. But in general, this being like this whole series being like over $150 and over is just not quite what I look to Mora for. So bit of a this year from Mora, in my opinion. My axe this year that I used, I wish I could talk about axes more than I actually need to talk about axes, because I barely have a use for more than one axe. This has been my one axe. I've got my other 2 that haven't even moved out of the drawer, except for like, sometimes I just want to look at them and pick them up. This has been the axe that I've used this year. As I said, I wish I had more legitimate uses for axes, but apart from hewing a couple of branches off that have hung over, or when I don't feel like using a saw, when I should probably just use a saw, we're just not an axe type country here in Australia. We're just not. I know in Tasmania there's some lumber, and Victorian, you know, there are some sort of foresty historical areas more entwined with the axe, but unfortunately we don't have that cool axe history that, you know, Americans and Canadians have. So for me, it's more of a treat when I get to use an axe. It wasn't really a treat this year, and I had to use this to finish off about 9 chickens that had been sort of mauled and left half alive by a retarded local dog that sort of lumbered its way into my yard. But, you know, it did that job fairly well. I like the cleaver style of this. I like the flat blade. I know it doesn't bite in as well when you're cutting down like a thicker tree, but just for living branches, I find the flat carpenter's axe much sort of, not much, but slightly or just a bit more pleasant to use, you know, trying to avoid like that review speak, oh, it's much more, you know, it's not much anything. It's just my slight preference is this flat edge blade. I find it easier to aim and use. So the Carpenter's Axe by Gransfors, really, really good. But again, harkening back to my other point, there are a lot of axes that will do just as well that just don't have that on it, that are about half as much as well. You know, you can look at your Haltifers, but you can look at even just your council tools and things like that. Most axes that are made by an axe company are going to have, you know, nice thin bits and decent enough steels. The Gransfors steel isn't amazing. It's just like a sort of recycled carbon steel that's probably the equivalent of about a 1055 or a 5160 or something like that. You know, so it's all a bit of this really, but it is a very nice tool, and I have enjoyed using it the few times I have been able to use it this year. Changing topic, bad this year, Diablo 4. My goodness, you know, if you want to play a game where you just get a bullet hell style thing going and you just click on everything, you optimize a build and you just run around and do the same thing over and over again, don't play Diablo 4. You play Vampire Survivors. It's like $4 on the Nintendo Switch eShop or on Steam, and it's basically the same thing. I played Diablo 4 for about a month. It wouldn't stop trying to sell me stuff. The game was just so repetitive and just so over and over again. I felt like I was running the same race over and over. The Sorcerer build that I tried, it did just feel like Vampire Survivors in the end. I know there's more nuance to it, but Blizzard Diablo 4 was a real disappointment for me, and I was just really looking forward to it because, like everyone in the world, I love Diablo 2. Sort of connected a bit with Diablo 3, and I was hoping 4 would be, you know, the return, but then I should know better with modern games that it's going to be full of, you know, implied microtransactions and just gotcha kind of nonsense, and it really does feel like that. Last time I opened it up, there was a screen of about 1 billion things that I could spend. It was a mess. But that's not to say that the world of gaming was bad this year, because good, basically most other video games. This was a great year for video games. 3 games that I want to talk about are Final Fantasy 16, Tears of the Kingdom, and Baldur's Gate 3. 16 was what I hoped it would be, a really great story-driven Final Fantasy with a great battle system. A little bit crap on the side quests. I'll definitely wag the finger to that. But as a standalone story, probably one of my favorite Final Fantasies. Yeah, I would like them to do another turn-based one to balance it out a little bit. I'm hearing they're doing a Final Fantasy 9 remake, so fingers crossed for that. But yeah, love Final Fantasy 16. Love Tears of the Kingdom as well. I liked getting really creative, making wacky stuff with the building tools and everything like that. And I loved the proper, you know, sequence through the more traditional feeling dungeons. And the last Ganondorf fight was just chef's kiss. And Baldur's Gate 3, well, I put it off for a while. I used to love this game. I used to love this game called Arcanum of Steamwork and Magic Obscura. I played my BG2 and my Baldur's Gate and my Icewind Dales and my Neverwinter Nights and those sort of things, but the Arcanum was really what this game has reminded me the most of. It's sort of like you even started a crash site and it's just fantastic. Like, this is Game of the Year for a reason. I'm playing it on a PS5 on a controller. I know it would be way better on a computer, but even controller, you know, controller, beta race, still having a great time. I've got pretty bad case of restartitis at the moment. I've reloaded new character. Right now I'm a dwarven sorcerer chick, and I'm just shagging everyone in my party. I mean, Lae'zel's a given straight away. Astarion, Gale, they're all going to get it. By the end of this game, they're all going to get it. Shadowheart even, although, I don't know, she seems like she's a bit cold on me this time because I've been a little bit down on the old Shah worship there, and I'm not sure what I'm going to do about the Night Song this time around. But if what I've said to you just then sounds like nonsense, it's because it kind of is. But if it doesn't sound like nonsense, then you're nodding along right now, and you know that Baldur's Gate 3 is, for a very good reason, everyone's favorite game of the year. It's made by a good company that's not full of microtransactions. It's not trying to sell you anything. In fact, they keep updating it, making the game better. Yeah, definitely the game of the year, Baldur's Gate 3, which I was really surprised. Thought I'd be a Final Fantasy 16 guy, but can't knock it. Anyway, enough non-knife gear stuff for the minute. My favorite sharpener of the year is the Worksharp Ken Onion Blade Grinder knife and tool sharpener. So this thing here is a beast. You could use this to basically sharpen anything in your house, but you can still dial in your exact angle, which is what us knife nerds want to do. You've got like the proper, you can use your little adjuster there, and even on this sort of fairly, you know, heavy hitting sharpener here, you can sharpen your kitchen knives on this still. Using this bit up here, you're just really adjusting how the angle is on that sort of thing. So you could do anything from making a blade out of a knife blank through to sharpening a lawnmower blade to an axe to a small pocket knife on this guy here. There's lots of neutral space, negative space around the belt, so you can really put whatever you want on this belt and get it nice and sharp. Still going to micro-convex your edge. You need to be okay with that. I'm definitely okay with it. Micro-convex edges, convex edge bevels, they, as I've often said, they don't last as long, but they stay, you know, a really good working sharpness for longer. So they might fail the paper cut test quicker than a nice V edge, but they'll retain a good working edge that you can support with just a stropping regime, and really, really good. So that's what you're going to be getting on this, and just a super versatile, super high quality tool. I'm still getting my head around it. I want to have the right information and the right demonstrations for you when I make a proper video series on this. But yeah, Worksharp very rarely misses with their products. I know they make a pull-through knife sharpener. That's just something that all the companies seem to do. I won't hold that against them too much. But you know, overall, they make a lot of great products. They make what I often say is the best, you know, $60 you can spend on knife related gear, which is the field sharpener here. This is such a great tool, and yeah, just a great company. I hesitate to say they're my favorite company of the year just because they sent this to me for free, and that seems like a bit of a case of cronyism if I was to do that. Definitely biased in that. So just, it's why I'm taking a bit more time, giving me a bit of space, clear my head, get a lot out of it, and look at this objectively, having done a lot of sharpening on it. I've dirtied the belts. I've had to replace the belts a couple of times already. I'm really working my way through getting my head around this machine. So hopefully a nice review in the new year, right? In this new year. But it is great. Another really cool thing is the LEP torches that are coming out, laser excited phosphor. Basically all throw, tiny little spotlight, but goes like a kilometer. Really cool sort of emerging technology on torches. I've got my Astrolux here. My buddy Chris sent me along. Just super fun to play with. What I'm hoping is that they'll start integrating them with LED torches, so you've got a bit of a switch between for what I'm hoping is a good price. A basic LEP at the moment is about $200. I'm hoping that in the year, as it gets sort of proliferated a bit more, hopefully for that $200, you're getting a good sort of LED torch as well, because you kind of need those. You need those two different kinds, because you need an LED for it to just be used as a torch to see around your house and your yard. But this guy here, if I hear some weird like fox howling in the night, I can go and spotlight it right in the face, make sure that he knows that I know he's there, and buggers off and stops trying to dig into me chickens. So yeah, really cool new technology, LEP torches, keep an eye on them. I think they're going to be like the big new thing in torches for the next couple of years at least. So very, very fun, very, very cool. Another thing that I've really enjoyed this year, one of my favorite bits of gear, in fact, has been my Davek umbrella. So super high quality. I wanted to buy once, cry once with my umbrella. We've just gone through a million chemists bought, or you buy them as you leave Cole's umbrella because it's raining outside. It costs $5. And by the next time you open it up, everything's backwards and it's like, looks like a dead bird, you know, it sucks. So I spent a bit. I think it was like $150 and I got a good sized Davek and I got a mini pocketable Davek as well. They're just basic colors, but they just reek of quality, just really high quality. They've got a really cool push button release, and you push the button again and it takes it back down. It doesn't pull it back in. You got to do that part by hand. But Davek umbrellas, I'm really, really impressed with them. If you've ever thought that you might get a nice umbrella, then definitely try them out. I got my wife a blunt umbrella as well, which has just nice patterns on it. So we're a bit sort of umbrella, you know, centric this year at around July when it was wife's birthday. I think I got her the blunt and then I got myself the Davek. Anyway, good times, good umbrellas, both of them, but really do recommend the Daveks. They seem really, really nice and just immediately feel very quality. But at the end of last year, I was a little bit flatter than normal. And some advice I got, some good advice I got was too, because I was having sort of like, I guess, catastrophic thoughts a little bit. It's hard to explain. I was just dwelling, I think. I was dwelling, I was a bit melancholy. And I got just good advice to just keep a little journal. So I just started writing in the cheapest, crappiest notebook I just found lying around the place, just some basic thoughts about, today I'm doing, if it's really mundane, boring stuff, like it's nothing really, but if I've got to worry about something, if I've got anything, I just put it in this. And these, it doesn't pay off immediately, but after a month or so, this gives you the gift of perspective, right? So, and it's also a great reason to use our like wanky EDC pens, of course, which is, you know, gear related. But in general, keeping a little notebook of like the thoughts that you're thinking and the things that you're worried about. It's great for when you're worried about something now, you go, well, what was I thinking about a month ago, 2 months ago, a year ago? And you open up your notes and you remember, oh my God, I was so hung up on that. And now I haven't thought about it in however long it's been. And it really is helpful. I found that a really helpful thing to do. So I'm not a therapist and this isn't proper advice, but if you're finding yourself getting hung up and getting stuck and getting like, just a bit sort of in your own head, then definitely just write a bit down each day. And it really is one of those things that pays off, without too much of a wait, but after a little bit of time. That, yeah, really good thing. And it is cathartic just to write things down. You write things down and like, there's a free journaling process, which I'm not using, but where you just write literally every thought in your head as you're thinking. And that's very different kind of therapy, but I haven't done that. I can see why that would work, having done this more minimal version of it. But anyway, so journaling pens has been, you know, really good for me in the last part of this year as well. So big thumbs down to Instagram this year. Instagram is on a bee's dick of a knife's edge with me keeping it or not. It's just, I've got a little friend group in there and a couple of people that I keep in touch with on the Instagram Messenger. That's the only reason I still got it. Because Instagram this year has just decided that it hates knives. And, you post anything that's blade shaped or an open knife and it restricts all you think. It's just nonsense. I mean, life is not, you don't need these things for life, obviously. Like, these are all optional things. And so as an optional thing, I'm sort of just not bothering with it. And it's my resolution to not bother. Like, some people were trying to go the other way and say, oh, if we get it legitimized and we get a blue check and all that sort of thing, then that might help us. It's like, nah, I'm opting out of Instagram this year. They don't need my business, obviously, because of this thing I'm interested in. So fuck them. Like, it's simple as that. YouTube, on the other hand, has been great. You look at this year on YouTube, some knife channels have gotten crazy views. Done really well. Max level EDC has just taken off. Every video is about a knife or a multi-tool. Alex over at Outdoors 55, I mentioned him before. He's getting great views on his really well done, well edited videos. So it's not all social media. It's not the big, the big conspiracy isn't what it is, but I do think that Meta as a company just have a real they just need to get themselves straight with what is actual harmful content and what is not. Because I think the computer that's doing their judging needs its head checked. So I'm pretty much opting off of posting anything but my cats and everything. I don't have Facebook. I got rid of Facebook years ago because Facebook is just for your uncle that that makes everyone uncomfortable at Thanksgiving. So I got rid of that years ago. That was just making me sad. I didn't want to see what my high school friends thought about, you know, the government of the day or anything like that. So that was gone ages ago. I think the other Meta product that I use, Instagram, is on its way out as well. So big to Instagram, you suck. Good this year was big silly knives. Biggest and silliest of them all, well, actually not the biggest, but the one I liked the most was my K-Bar Big Brother. This made me feel very good, and it still makes me feel very good just to hold and use. It's got that classic movie feel. It's like the K-Bar from the movies, and but it's like a big crazy version. It's got a dumb sort of serrated back on it for cutting vines. Apparently it's like, no one's going to use it for anything apart from holding to make yourself feel good, making you feel like you might be able to fight a guy with it, and then dying instantly if it was a real life. But yeah, just really good fun. The essence of like men enjoying stupid, dangerous things in a controlled way, which is how I like to do things. You only live once, so don't screw it up. Just play with a knife. Don't go base jumping. Righto. So yeah, really enjoyed this. Some half-breed blade stuff. Earlier on, I had my Cold Steel Frontier Bowie. Great big knives. I've just shamelessly enjoyed them this year, so been good. Another great win this year has been YouTuber-led products. All sorts of guys who make content starting to shack up a bit with the companies and get a knife made. I know Neves did one, which was cool. My favorite story of the year was the steel nerdery combination of Sean over at Triple B and Sal and Eric Glesser with this 15V on the Spyderco's. The best blade steel edge retention result I've ever had on the channel. Really impressive work from all the lads. Great to see like someone who is sort of an independent relative like person getting recognized by a company like Spyderco and sort of brought along on a project like this. Just really, really good vibes all around and great to see it. And what a great result. This cut so much through rope, cut through like 2,000 bits of rope before it was even slightly dull. And I bet it's not even dull now. Let's test it on the show notes. Oh, I mean, it's probably not been sharpened since the test. It's still sharp enough, and this would just be how it finished up. And truth be told, I hadn't really used this as an EDC knife. It's more of a treasure or a test piece. But anyway, great to see that. And also great to see, I know it's just almost at the end of it's at the start of this year really, but the Advanced Knife Pro. Stump lifter. How cool. Everyone's favorite, you know, Lothario of knives, Advanced Knife Pro getting his own sort of classic design made. It's just a bit of a multi-tool, you know, knife, bottle opener, and screwdriver, all on a slip joint, all with, you know, decent little pulls, all the things he likes in a knife. Sort of a modern style, you know, with exposed screws and whatnot. But yeah, I might do a little video on this coming up. It's not really widely accessible, although I think they are probably going to do another run because they've been quite popular. But yeah, really probably worth a small video, so there'll probably be one of those in the works at some point too. But yeah, great to see this year. A little bit of give and take from the nerds like me and the nerds that run the company. So overall, opinions on the knife industry this year, partially because of how I'm changing my views a little bit, given about how much things cost. I must say I've noticed the price creep pretty badly from, well, let's start with Benchmade. Benchmade has sort of been the poster child for price creep, just having knives like the Narrows, which are just so expensive. Like what used to be Sebenza money for like a Benchmade, that, you know, maybe Benchmade has that same level of fuss and fit and finish as Chris Reeve does now, but I think a lot of people have scoffed just as I've said that as well. So it's just an interesting time. I haven't been loving, nothing I've seen at these crazy prices has been enough for me to spend that money on. I know the knife world is full of a lot of single dudes or like independently wealthy dudes who kind of collect them like watch guys collect watches, or how car guys even collect classic cars. I know that a lot of you are out there that are like that. Maybe your kids have grown up and moved out, but my stage of life, I've been really struggling with the value in a lot of these knives. I mean, Spyderco even, which are kind of my go-to, pretty basic Spydercos now. You can't really get anything that's not a Chinese Spyderco for under $100 US really, apart from like a really tiny, maybe Japanese, you know, ladybug or manbug or something. It's all creeping up. I get that businesses have costs and they get overheads and all that sort of thing, but yeah, that's been sort of a stage that I've really not been loving. Also, a couple of my companies I used to really love have sort of began to go in directions I don't love. I've not been super thrilled at the cold steel state since they got bought out by that larger sort of conglomerate kind of company. A lot of the new stuff to me just looks a little bit too trashy without that sort of cold steel character to it as much. Sort of a lot of curved sort of, you know, hooky blades and just that sort of stuff just not been as into. Not much has been, like when I scroll through my YouTube video feed, I just find myself clicking less on videos about knives unless it's a video from someone who I know is going to be making an interesting video. And I guess that's kind of telling. So I don't know what needs to happen, whether, I mean, I was really interested in multi-tools towards the end of the year. Due to the Leatherman Arc, I went on a bit of a multi-tool binge again. So it'll probably come back, but just right now, I feel like I'm drowning a little bit in either really expensive knives from the companies I like, or in just these new sub-brands of sub-brands just pouring through, just making so many new knives, it's impossible to keep track of them, all mostly being made by QSP or Kaiser, or, you know, it's just all feels a little bit soulless, but also really expensive at the moment. So those are my thoughts just on the knife world at the minute. My favorite bit of gear this year, and my most used and abused bit of gear, and frankly, I sound like such like a basic white girl, but my favorite brand of the year has frankly been Yeti. I'm a bit of a Yeti slut for Yeti, I suppose you could say. And yeah, I know their drink bottles are probably nothing special and it's just all about personal taste and whatnot, but this is my garden box full of my garden stuff. And it's a Yeti GoBox 15. And this thing has just been out in the Australian sun for like 6 months, literally just sitting in the sun. Other toolboxes that do that end up like paper thin and just falling apart. This is still just robust and rugged, and all the plastics are just bulletproof still. It's waterproof, so it's never got liquor water inside it. I just use it to keep all of my plumbing fixings in and all of my fencing sort of fixings and stuff like that. And yeah, it just gets left outside, left in the mud. The dogs like run into it, knock it over. The chickens sit on it, shit on it. Like, it's just gets completely maligned and abused. And this single bit of gear here is probably my least regretful purchase. And it's a $150 toolbox, but it is, again, buy once, cry once. If you need like a handheld toolbox, these things are excellent and just super solid. You could have this on the back of a ute all day rather than like the normal sort of galvanized metal things. Really, really good, really, really solid. The Yeti GoBoxes could be, boringly enough, my favorite bit of gear. Definitely my least sort of bashful purchase of the year. So I love the drink bottles and their cups and their coolers and all that sort of stuff, but that specifically, really have enjoyed it. Knife company of the year. So which knife company do I feel the best about with the year wrapping up? It's hard because I don't want to say Spyderco because Sal sent me a mule earlier this year. I don't want to say Workshop because they sent me a couple of sharpeners, a few things. So I'm not going to say any of those. It would seem disingenuous. You know, I'm going to be safe. I'm going to say Victorinox. In light of what I've been talking about, you can still get a great knife, Swiss made from Victorinox, for like under 60 Australian dollars. That you just can't go wrong. I know the steels are old fashioned, but they're a company that have just been, they know what their limits are, especially when you're seeing what more of, they didn't like this. And this made me think about what I like about Victorinox, these knives here, right? You just can't go wrong. And in this year where I don't feel too strongly about a lot of the knife companies that I used to feel really strongly about, I think going back home to saying Victorinox are getting it about right. For, you know, they're not reinventing the wheel. I would like to see them put like a new steel in their knife, or maybe a thumb stud on a couple of their, you know, bigger pocket knives or whatever. But I love their multi-tools. I love their Swiss Army knives and their outdoor knife. I loved how they worked with Felix, who is a great YouTuber in his own right. I think he's organizing me an outdoor fixed blade because they looked at the one they had made by Muella and I don't think the Outdoor Master was so great. So they've gone and done a sort of revamp of it. They've gone and ground it, you know, for cutting. It's very sort of been an interesting project to watch for the latter part of the year. Obviously going for some of the Garberg market maybe, but also doing their own thing. You know what? Victorinox this year is what I'm going to say. That's it, Victorinox. You win. Good job, guys. Best YouTube channel of the year, best gear-related YouTube channel of the year. There's two that I want to talk about. First, and I think I mentioned them both already, Max Level EDC. Really hit hard with the great sort of random multi-tools. He reviews all those weird multi-tools you see that are like kind of knockoffs or kind of like just the bit esoteric ones, the bit idiosyncratic ones. he goes through all of them and he's getting really good results, really good views, really good sort of presence online with his really consistent content. It's all tabletop, so if you're happy with tabletop, he does a really good job. So check out Max Level EDC. But my favorite videos of the year have been made by Alex over at Outdoors 55. From working on his house through to back to his sharpening videos, his edits make me jealous. His content has a real rhythm and a beat to it. The way he applies music, the way he applies his cuts, just a really solid YouTuber, and he's getting the views that he deserves to get because his stuff is really well done, and he is a really good source of information on sharpening, far better than myself. So you definitely check out Outdoors 55 if you've not, which I would hope you have. So that's my two nods of the year for YouTube, guys. Knife community contributor, I can't walk past Tony from Everyday Commentary this year. Tony has taken on like a full-time law consultant with, I think, Knife Rights or Knife. One of the companies is basically trying to make, knife, destigmatize knife, use in America, which is something here in Australia where we basically live, a very restrictive sort of knife existence due to some pretty vague local laws and whatever. He's doing in America like what I wish someone would do here, like just making it normal. And Tony is not like, he's approaching it from just a really pragmatic, a really sort of, let's just talk about it. Let's wax about where these laws come from. There's some really good writings on his blog site, Everyday Commentary, recently about, the origins of firearms prohibition, for example. Like, Ronald Reagan, everyone's favorite Republican, years ago said that he doesn't know why anyone should have a firearm, like pretty much, I'm paraphrasing. So he just goes through the history of these things and these movements, and he's just got a very sort of, he's got his head on straight he's someone who will be able to make actual change, I think. And so that's a really good advocate for us as just normal people who like knives, having someone who is, pretty normal himself, just get out there and represent this hobby in a healthy way, rather than like the way that's going to scare off the people who aren't already in the choir, So good on Tony for his work this year and for his job, and big congrats. And I love the work on his blog as normal, but I'm really liking this new direction. I think it's very cool. Overall, knife of the year, pretty obvious choice. It's not a knife from 2023, but it is my knife of 2023, the Spyderco Stretch 2 in K390 steel, my favorite knife pattern with my favorite steel on it. It's been used extensively, been used for all sorts of jobs, has never let me down. The Stretch 2 is the knife that I would recommend to basically anyone looking for any knife that folds. I think this could basically fit into any role and do at least a good job. We just used it recently on our holiday. I used it to cut up cheese, albeit like brie, soft cheese. But you know what? It did a great job at that too. It does a great job out of my garden. It does a great job with basically every task I put it to. This is Spyderco's best knife, I think. I like it more than the Paramilitary 2 and the Paramilitary 3 and the Spidey Chef. Just a great classic pattern. Love the fact that they've done this new, more normal looking blade shape. The Stretch 2 is my favorite knife, and it's probably going to be my knife of 2024 as well, unless something crazy happens. I love my TRMs. I quite liked my Benchmade Bug Out in CPM 20 CV this year as well, but nothing comes close to the old Spyderco Stretch 2. Just feels a little bit more rugged, a little bit more rock solid, a bit simpler as well. Less to go wrong. Just a great knife overall. Knife of the year for me. Back to the arts quickly. My favorite show this year was the second series of Vinland Saga. It's a Japanese animation about Vikings. It is a real departure from the first season, which was completely blood-soaked Viking violence. The second season is about slavery and freedom and basically like farming, but it is one of the most effective things I've seen in ages. Really, really high quality stuff. Really recommend Vinland Saga. I've talked about it before. I won't bang on about it too much, but yeah, definitely gives me the feels. It was an amazing show. I really liked Pluto and Blue Eye Samurai as well in terms of other animations. Pluto is a great sort of murder mystery set in an adult reimagining of the Astro Boy world. Yeah, and Blue Eye Samurai on Netflix, just a really good blood-soaked samurai romp. Really good themes in it, really good animation, really quite gripping to watch. So really recommend those three. They're all cartoons this year. I loved this last season of Succession as well, but I mean, everyone loved that. The episode Cameron's Wedding was amazing. I think everyone knows that as well. So, and also the bear was great as well. So really enjoyed the bear too. But yeah, those 3 animations are the things that stuck with me the most. In terms of movies, look, there were some great sort of serious topic movies that came out. Killers of the Flower Moon was really good, a really interesting topic, really important story to tell for sure. But the movie I enjoyed the most was the Dungeons and Dragons Honor Among Thieves movie. It was just a good time. Like, it was like how The Mummy is good, like how Indiana Jones is good, just like a great family film to watch with, like, as long as your kids aren't super cynical, 16-year-olds who think everything sucks, everyone can enjoy this movie. It's just a damn good time. It's the good time that like Star Wars should still be. It's a good time that Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny should have been, that it wasn't. It's just got a great series of leads. Chris Pine and what's her name? She's excellent. Michelle Rodriguez are the 2 sort of drivers of the film. It's great, and it is quite accurate to D&D if you are a Dungeons and Dragons person, which I'm barely, but my son is, and yeah, he got it all. Really, really good. Really honored the property as best as it could while still being just a good digestible movie. Look, I really recommend this film. It sounds like it was going to be terrible. No one was looking forward to seeing it. No one really saw it, but really recommend it. It's just a good damn time. And my favorite album of the year was by a singer called Mitski. It's called The Land is Inhospitable and So Are We. It's sad girl pop, which I guess I am a sad girl at heart sometimes. I love that, and I also love Carolyn Polachek's Desire, I Want to Turn Into You album, which was just a much more upbeat, really, really great. She's an amazing, really creative, artsy pop singer. That's just the music I'm into at the moment. It is subject to change, but right now, those are the things that are on my highest rotation. I think my Spotify list was basically all Carolyn Polachek, Mitski, Snail Mail. Anyway, probably nothing that interests you too much, but I thought I'd just mention a bit of culture just at the end. So that's my 2023 wrap up. I hope you've enjoyed. Listening to me just talk for 45 minutes. Sorry it's so long, but I feel like I covered a fair few topics too. So my hopes for this year are to keep making some content, not just content, good videos on knives. I don't know what sort of things I feel like making. Me and my wife have been talking about making some videos together that are like kind of different and just about more lifey stuff. I'll see how it goes. I'm very aware. Like I'm subscribed to channels that have changed their content and I've stopped watching them as well. So I'm not expecting anything big to change, but just the way I'm feeling about the world and about the hobby specifically, I'm just feeling a little bit out of tune with it, to be honest. So I would suspect I've got some things I need to get done. So I'm working on this review. I've got some workshops that I really need to show you that I have been really enjoying using. So there are some stuff that is definitely in the works that is of course knife related, and the channel will, I think, largely remain about 80% knife and gear. So you don't have to worry too much. But that being said, I am definitely keen on just, if I feel like making it, I'm going to make it. This is a really good form of self-expression for me. I like sort of watching back my videos. I watched my back videos from 3 years ago and I'm like, well, that was just me in a different, just from a journaling point of view even, it's kind of cathartic. So I'm going to keeping on. No major changes in my life. We are just looking at buckling down and paying our mortgage off as quick as we can. I feel like any money extra you pay to the banks, waste of money. So probably less purchases for that. So thank you again to my Patreons. You guys help me just buy the thing every month. It's for the channel, guilt-free. So that's good. And yeah, other stuff will just be as I buy it, as it comes across the table and whatever. But yeah, overall, here's hoping for a good 2024 knife year. And hope you stay with me. I'll hope to see you soon in my next film. Goodbye.